the 100 limit I sent out is now no longer in play. So the next sessions, you can forward it out or have those people register. We'd appreciate it. I say we get going. You ready there, Mr. Chu?
Very quickly, though, I want to first of all acknowledge our two co-chairs, Barry DeBay and Nigel Bush, for co-chairing this conference. It's a 4-week endeavor, but they started working yesterday. They started working a month and a half ago
yesterday
to organize this. This is new for us and for the officiating community, doing things online. So bear with us if there is any kind of, we're learning as we go. All the materials that our presenters provide, all the presentations and the recording, we'll eventually put it on our website, cfoaref.com. Please share with your local associations. And as we go forward in the next 4 weeks, we'll have a little bit more updates for you as well. So without further ado, I'll pass it back to you, Barry.
Thank you. Again, one quick reminder, please mute yourself if you can. If not, I do have control to mute yourself, as well as we all know that umpires truly have control of the game, not the referees, but So anyway, our first set of presenters are 3 gentlemen from the CFL, Tom Cesari, Andrew Wakefield, Pat Macarthur. I've had the privilege of meeting 2 of these gentlemen. I don't think I've met Andrew before, but thanks again, Andrew, for joining us. I can read their bios if you like, or we can just get right into it. Long story short, there's a lot of experience amongst these guys, and hopefully, as we label this, how to become a better official, take some tips from the pros. Hopefully these guys can give us a few things we can take away and become better officials with. So without further ado, I will turn it over to our first guys, Andrew and Tom.
Hey, thank you very much, Barry. It's actually quite an honor for us to have been invited to a Cfoa conference. It's the first time that we've had the opportunity to speak at one of these. So it was an absolute pleasure for us to be asked, and we didn't hesitate. I sadly don't have permission to share my screen, so I'll keep rambling on until someone can do that for me.
Yes, you do. You can share your screen now.
Oh, yes, I now do. That's perfect. Thank you. Wonderful. Can you see this?
Yes.
Whoa, beautiful. All right. So Andrew and I spent a little bit of time putting this presentation together for you. What we are trying to accomplish today is take your, we're obviously focusing on the line of scrimmage, which contrary to what Barry was suggesting, is actually the top position on the football field and also the busiest, but we'll get into that in just a minute. What we're going to try to do for you line of scrimmage officials out there is we're going to try to elevate the ability to read a play and get into some advanced topics on how to read the play, find your keys, and referee the threats of the game. Now, while we are talking about advanced topics, it is very much applicable. The applicability of what we're going to talk about is to every level of football. So it's not just for the upper echelon or the university folks. This can be employed right from high school and above. So we really are talking about things that are applicable to everybody's game. The other thing that we wanted to highlight before we jump right into it is we are going to talk about some advanced features that kind of come after you've mastered the basics. So we don't expect you to be able to take everything we're talking about today and put it into practice your first game out in 2021, because we will be refereeing football this year. It really is, we're just trying to give you some extra information that we hopefully will allow you to integrate into your game as we progress. So without further ado, let's get right into it. What we're going to talk about more specifically today is getting ready to start the play and what are the things that we can do to help make our job once the action starts a little bit easier. We're going to try to focus on formational awareness. We're going to talk about things like what the offense is trying to do versus what the defense is trying to do and where are some of the advantages that one could have over the other. Identifying my keys and threats. Does anybody know what a key is and a threat, and a key to what and a threat to whom? If you don't know, not a problem. We're going to explain it to you. And once the action starts, then what do? We all have a tendency to look at the quarterback, but we're going to try to give you some tips and tricks to figure out what's happening before having to look at the quarterback, and when would be a good time to watch my receivers, etc. So mastering the art of the line of scrimmage, I mean, we have so many different things to talk about. And that is why it is absolutely critical that we focus on accumulating as much information as possible. So before the play starts, finding out what clues we have to ascertain what's about to come at us. Because with everything that you guys see on the screen that we have to manage, sorry, it is impossible to do all of this at once. What we're going to try to do is simplify the process for you, give you advanced information that'll allow you to ascertain all of this information so that you can do it in a snap. And while it is the most complicated position on the field, as you can see by everything we have to do, we're going to make it look extra easy because you have all these tips and tricks.
All right, so thanks, Tom. Let's break it down, and we're going to go through a couple different definitions and set the stage for how do we learn and how do we read these plays in advance so that we can, elevate ourselves and make a good call. So let's talk about keys. So who are they? There are so many to choose from. Keys are another way of saying who you're going to cover on a given play. They're always offensive because the offense dictates the play and the defense responds to the offensive actions. Okay. Your keys are defined by the number of officials on the field. It's defining your mechanics manuals. Remember, these are just a guideline and a starting point. Hopefully, we will address who the important keys are during this presentation. But one key takeaway that you should always remember is you are always responsible, regardless, for what happens to your key in your area of coverage on the field. Let's talk about clues. So what is a clue and how do we find these clues? So a clue is a piece of information. It's used in detecting a play, solving a coverage mystery. Okay, so lots of different clues out on the field that we're going to talk about, little things that you can pick up in order to ascertain what might be happening or what is the high probability of what's going to happen on a given play. So some examples may include receivers blocking, any pre-snap motion that's happening. What does the formation look like that the offense is coming out in? What's the down and distance, the game situation? Using clues will help determine what is coming, where to look, and when, and that will lead you to threats. And we'll get to that in a second. Right before we do that, let me give, no, let's go through an example of clues first. Thanks, Tom. So let's talk about this play in front of you as an example. So much to unpack on this play. I'm on the line of scrimmage. I have an end. The gates are done. Now what? Well, what can I see from the still image? I see a full backfield. I see two running backs. I see a receding, speedy receiver who may be a decoy early in the game if this is just the beginning of the first quarter. I also know he doesn't get paid enough to run between the tackles, so there's a small chance of an outside run on this play. But this whole strategy is far less important than really determine if this play is going to be a run or a pass, and that's really the crux of it. That we want to determine. Is this play going to be a run? Is it going to be a pass? And that's really going to dictate who I'm going to look to and when. Look at the defense on this play. The defense is playing a very lax coverage on those receivers. The offense outnumbers the defense at the point of attack. So my gut says high percentage chance of a run on this play. You have more opportunity on this play to watch the backfield as a result and any other aspects before turning your attention to your key receiver. Nothing's going to happen to him in the first couple yards. So you've got a little more flexibility to have a peek to the quarterback, to have a peek to those backers. And picking up these early clues of where formations are lined up and how they're responding will do just that and help you identify some threats. So let's talk about threats. So what's a threat? Well, aside from obviously an objectionable conduct penalty on our field, it's a person or thing likely to cause damage or danger. So it's similar to physical distancing. When a player is in close proximity to another, they're threatened. When there's distance between the opponents or perhaps far away from the play, we wouldn't consider these as much of a threat. Few examples that we'll talk about: a returner who catches a long kickoff and he's 20 yards away from the nearest cover team player, probably not a threat. A ball carrier who receives the ball in the backfield and the closest lineman is 5 yards away, not a threat. A receiver's lined up and the nearest DB is 10 yards off, as we just saw in the previous slide, not a threat. However, a receiver facing press coverage, that's an immediate threat. A ball carrier about to be tackled is an immediate threat, etc. So now we're starting to narrow down what needs to be officiated in a play. Sure, we start the play with a zone and some keys are in my zone. Then we look for clues that might give us important information to find actual threats on the field. And then after that, we're able to officiate the things that actually matter. So let's have a look at another still image. This is a tight end 4x1 formation. What can we tell from this play from a threat perspective? Well, if you look at the bottom of the screen, you'll see those DBs in press coverage and posing an immediate threat to the receivers. Our attention needs to be primary there post snap to make sure that there's no infractions, there's no grabbing, pushing by either team, what's going on in that regard. So we need to watch this action before we look to the backfield, in contrast to the previous still we just looked at. As opposed to that prior play, we had time to look at the quarterback and the running back. So now let's talk about officiating the dead ball period. So the dead ball period is that time in between plays. You get to sort of take a breath, bring your heart rate down a little bit, relax, get set for the next play. And we've all got our own pre-snap routine that we're going to start to get through in that play. But there's a lot more that we need to do. So taking this to the next level is moving beyond ensuring that we have 12 players on the field. But who are the 12 players on the field? Many teams will vocalize their formations, things like 5R, 2 back. Hamilton, for example, used to use 5R Tiger. And if we pick up on that, that would tell us something about the formation. Montreal Alouettes call 5R Ranger. 2 back indicates they're setting a bigger type of formation. Rhino, Jumbo, these are all cues and can be clues to tell us what the play is about to look like. And no, we're not professing that you need to become an expert of these teams' playbooks and that you need to know everything. But these are examples on ways that you can learn throughout the game as you see what's developing in front of you and start to understand and ascertain, where those clues and threats might be. Even if you're opposite the benches, you can pick up on terminology by watching the quarterback. So how do we get ready to take this one step further? Let's look at the offensive formations. Always look both ways, as in it's really good to know what each play represents on each side of the ball. If the offense isn't going fast in some sort of hurry up, you usually have quite a bit of time to look around and pick up more clues. In addition, the defense usually shows a little of its hand before the offense breaks the huddle. This is also very helpful. The key here is really optimizing that 20 to 25 seconds in between plays before the huddle even breaks to start to pick up all the different clues that you can, in addition to obviously your pre-snap routine, the counting that's going on, the gates that that are going to need to come up very shortly thereafter. This is all additive. And so similar to our pre-snap routines, when we think about it, what information do I have now that I can think about, that I can add on and know leading up to the play? Because we all have enough going on once the play actually starts.
So getting into reading the play, Andrew has laid a foundation talking about what our initial responsibilities are, who our keys are, how we can use clues to find out which of our keys are actually threatened and need to be officiated at that given moment. And more importantly, how to take best advantage out of that 25 seconds of dead time between the whistle and the actual ball being put into play. There's a lot of information that we can derive that helps us lead our mindset into the next play. Now that we get to the next play, we want to really quickly figure out how we're going to read the play. We hear that a lot. We teach people a lot. We talk about that in post games, and supervisors often say it. But what does it actually mean? What does it mean for a referee or an official on the line of scrimmage to actually read the play? Ultimately, and Andrew alluded to this earlier, the only thing that we really want to quickly know is this play going to be a run or a pass? Because if it's going to be a run, I want to know where the ball carrier is. Is that ball carrier going to get into my zone? And then I need to find the blocks that matter on that could potentially spring that ball carrier. If it's a pass, well, then obviously I need to figure out where are my receivers, which receivers are threatened, and make sure that they're able to legally run their routes, etc. How do we figure out if this is going to be a run or a pass quickly? We're going to actually watch some film and we're going to, ask for some advice here. But really, all we're going to do is continue to build off the clues that our keys are giving us to figure out, is this going to be a run or is this going to be a pass? One of the biggest pieces of information that gets forgotten, and we actually had a CFL coach come in and talk to us about this, which is why we're actually sharing this information with you, is that the running back is going to give you a lot of information before the play starts. Now that makes perfect sense, because if it's a run play, chances are he's going to get the ball. So it makes sense for us to figure out what the running back is doing before the play starts. So here's another tool that we're putting into your toolkit, that once you find your end and you do your gates and do all the basic stuff and find the 6 receivers, find out what the running back's doing. Where is he aligned? Is he in pistol, meaning he's lined up behind the quarterback? That's a really good sign that they're trying to set up a run. If he's lined up beside the quarterback, is he motioning to get into a blocking position before the play starts? A lot of running backs do that. Do they leak out of the backfield to set up a pass protection? That's a really good clue for you before the ball snapped. Now, we may not be able to do that because all of our receivers are running and hitting the line. That if you can't get a read on the back, that's okay. We'll find other clues for you. However, if you're a downfield official and you're in a 5-person crew and you're the back judge, the running back will actually give you, because you have more time to watch the running back, read off the running back. That'll give you a lot of information on what's going to happen on the play. Reading your keys. So beyond the running back, we're going to have a series of keys, and those are the receivers that line up in front of us. They're either going to do one of two things. They're going to try to run a route, or they're going to break down and try to block the defender that's lined up in front of them. If the receiver comes out and runs a route pretty hard, we know that they're going to have to take our attention. How long do we have to follow that receiver? Well, the quick answer to that is we need to follow them until whatever is going to happen happens. So we have an example later that we're going to show you where there's a defender lined up at 10 yards in front of a receiver. That means that we have to watch that receiver for 10 yards, because there's no sense watching him for the first 8. There's no sense watching him for 10 if the defender is at 12. We're the only person that'll have a chance to see the whole play if you watch that receiver until whatever contact or threat, no social distancing, until that social distancing barrier without masks has broken down. That's how long we have to watch a receiver. If our receiver decides that he's going to run a crossing route across the field through linebacker territory, we have to follow that receiver running through linebacker territory, because there are a lot of threats in linebacker territory. And if a receiver has a defender in press, like one of the stills that we saw, we need to watch that right away, because we need to make sure that there's a free release. There's no clutching and grabbing, as Andrew alluded to. But what happens if all of those situations happen simultaneously? Well, then you need to unpack it in order of priority. So naturally, press would become your #1 priority. The crosser is probably going to be your second priority. And then that defender that's waiting at 12 or 13 yards in that lackadaisical BC coverage that we saw in the first still, that'll become your third threat to referee on that play. So you've ascertained what's going to happen. You just have to get your mind to follow it through without looking at the quarterback, so you can officiate all those plays. So remember, follow your key until whatever is going to happen happens. All right, so let's have a look at this. On this particular play, we can quickly ascertain several things. We have a 4-by-1 formation, right? We have a running back in the backfield beside the quarterback, not motioning out, so there is a possibility of a run. We know that the defense is playing a soft type of zone because there's 4 receivers at the bottom and only 3 folks to cover them. So we know that they're in a softer type of zone. And when they're in a zone, we know that the threat against our receivers is going to be a little bit different. We know that when the defense is playing zone, the threat that we're going to experience is more of a redirection, as opposed to not allowing the person to get upfield, the inside grab, and trying to maintain coverage that you would see in man-to-man coverage type of thing. And because the defense is actually outnumbered to the bottom of the screen, it might be a clue that we might want to see a quick pass or some sort of screen out this way because of the outnumbering. If I were to quickly try to find my threats, the only threat is really to the #1 receiver. So the receiver closest to the boundary at the bottom. That defender has his feet in the ground and he is looking to initiate some contact to slow that receiver down. The other receiver, the #2 receiver, for example, has 15 yards to run before he encounters a threat. So my first point of attention will be to the number one receiver. Then I'll quickly glance to the backfield to see if that screen pass or quick run out to this way where the defense is outnumbered is coming. And if not, it's still a pass. I'll go to that number three threat there, because that distance would have likely closed in that second or two that all of that just happened. I know that this is a lot of information, but with so many people on a call, we can't really take questions as we go. So just follow us through, and at the end, you guys can ask some questions. So here's our first actual video play. What we have here is a simple 3-by-2 formation with a running back in pistol, so lined up directly behind. Now let's have a look at, sorry, I went forward instead of hitting play. Here we go. Let's find out what happens. The receiver here goes in what we call read motion. If you don't know what read motion is, it's actually something that really doesn't mean anything. The receiver needs to be on the other side of the play for the play. But the reason that they've decided to start on one side and then motion to the other is it's given the quarterback an opportunity to read if anybody follows. If someone follows, they're in man-to-man coverage. If someone doesn't follow, they're in zone coverage. So when your receiver starts on your side and jogs to the other side like this one does, it's super important to find out if anybody follows. Why? Because once I know that the defense is in man or zone, then I know that the threat that I'm going to experience is either that redirection from zone, or is the defense going to be aggressive because they're in man coverage, and the coverage is going to be much less socially distanced, and we're going to have to keep our eye out for those threats. Finally, the back, if you have an opportunity to see, motions out of the backfield from pistol into a pass pro before the ball snapped. So without watching any more of this play, I have a high degree of certainty that this play is going to be a pass play, and then I need to find my threats. My threat here, if I was at the bottom of the screen, would simply be that number 2 receiver. That's in close proximity to that defender, but I know that that defender is not going to follow. They're in zone. They're probably going to redirect and then sit back down.
Perfect. Let's look at another play to contrast and use that same line of thinking then. So have a look at this play as we'll run that through a couple times. And right off the bat, pre-snap, here are some things that we're thinking about. We have a lot of offensive players in the clothesline play area of this play. We have a back in pistol. We have a tight end. We have a receiver motioning into the tackle who's facing upfield. Chances are, based on all these players coming into the clothesline play area, that this is a run. We can look to see if that we're right, or it could become a play action because none of our receivers are threatened when you look at the bottom of the screen. The receiver that motions in, number 2 receiver at the top, becomes our only real threat at this point from a line of scrimmage perspective. So even without going any further and seeing the snap and post play, these are the types of things that we can start to pick up right away to give us a high degree probability of what may or may not be about to happen. Let's look at another one. So we'll run this through a couple times. In this play, we see a standard set. We have early motion from the back, really suggesting that we have a pass coming, going back to Tom's first play that he showed you. We have no immediate threat on any of the receivers. However, we do have a blitzing defender, as you'll see is circled and coming in on the screen. Doesn't happen to be one of the keys, but that could indicate that it's going to need to be a quick pass to the top of the screen to avoid that defender coming in. So again, we don't know exactly what's going to happen, starting to put together the probability of what may be in the art of the possible here.
All right, have a look at this play here. We really like this one because it actually shows a progression of one threat to another. We're going to start at the bottom of the screen here. We have a 2 receiver set, but we have the defense kind of in a very lax zone coverage because they're outnumbered. So if I was at the bottom of the screen, I know that the number 1 receiver actually in these mechanics is my threat, but I also know that there's 10 yards of distance between my defender. So that gives me an opportunity to find out what the back in the backfield is going to end up doing, because my pre-snap, I noted that there was a receiver there. We have read motion to the other side with nobody following. Without a threat, we're quickly able to kind of look to the backfield and look for crossers coming back at me, something coming into my zone, because I know that there is no immediate threat in this zone to to officiate. Remember, we always want to be officiating threats. So in this particular case, if you're able to go through that very quickly and you don't keep your eyes on the number one receiver at the bottom of the screen that ends up being your only receiver, you're able to quickly pick up that crosser, coming through linebacker territory, and that linebacker aggressively coming downhill and committing an illegal contact penalty. Maybe it doesn't impact the play and we don't want to necessarily have a flag on that. I leave that up to you. We're not going to debate whether or not this should be a penalty, but it's a really good way of saying, hey, I have one receiver. They're not immediately threatened. What else can I do? Is there something coming at me from the backfield? Do I have a crosser? Picking up that crosser, identifying that they're in a threatening position and calling a penalty if there is one. Here we have a 4-by-1 formation, again, with a tight end at the top of the screen and a running back in pistol. At the beginning of the play, we know that there are no immediate threats on a receiver. Because we have a running back in the backfield and he stays there, my first reflex would be on this particular play to have a glance at the backfield to see if there is potentially a screen pass coming, or is it going to be a straight handoff to the running back. In this case, it's actually a play action pass, but that's okay, because I still have time to ascertain that this is a play action pass and then get to my key, or sorry, to get to my keys, which are my receivers, and identify the threat. The only threat on this play is the number 3 receiver, which happens around the hash mark where a linebacker steps out and, you know, is trying to get to bottom coverage, but really nothing happens there. So if going through the things that we've talked about today, we have a running back in pistol, so it could be a run, glance to the backfield because I have no immediate threats on any of my keys. And when I realize it's going to be a pass, then I have to broaden out to the keys, which are my receivers, and find out if any of them are going to be threatened on the play. That's the progression that we're talking about here.
All right, we've got a couple more, so hopefully you're staying with us here. But this one's a really great play to illustrate one of the earlier points Tom made about sticking with your key as long as possible. So have a look at this play. The back is in motion out of the pistol. The receivers are hitting the line, running hard routes. The defenders are off about 10 yards on the top and the bottom. But have a look at the number 2 on the bottom. We need to hold the receivers until that interaction with the defender is fully complete. If we focus just on the ball and then the open receiver who has effectively social distanced on this play, we'll miss the foul. This could be OPI, this could be illegal contact. It doesn't really matter. That's not up for debate. The key is you need to be able to see it. And so you need to recognize that, you know, despite the fact that this DB is more than 10 yards off, that is the most immediate threat that you need to be responsible for. And so you need to stay with it as long as is necessary.
Yeah, that was a really great example about keeping with your keys until whatever is going to happen happens. We had that number 3 receiver leak out there. No one around, no sense officiating that. Let's get to the threat. Let's tie it all together with the final play. I like this play because we have a spread formation, 3-by-2. Again, we have that running back in pistol. So could this be a run? Probably not, because the running back starts leaking out way early. What do I ascertain? Because of that, I'm going to watch my receivers. What do my receivers do? Instead of running a route on both the top and the bottom, they break down immediately to block. So that tells me that if it is a pass play, we're probably going to have something illegal happening. But that tells me that this is probably going to be a screen pass. I know that the running back has left the backfield because I saw the pre-snap motion. I took advantage of that dead ball period. I know that my keys are breaking down to block. I'll be able to glance to the backfield to figure out what's coming at me and then effectively rule on that screen pass. What you don't want to do is watch the quarterback at the beginning of every play, because you're going to miss action that happens on your threats. You want to choose your moments where you're able to look to the backfield to see what's coming at you, to rule on screen passes, to make sure that you can find the most important blocks if it's a run play coming into your zone or you have to rule on a ball carrier. We don't want to have a default, which is I'm going to look at the quarterback for the first second of every single play, and then I'm going to figure out where I need to go from there. So this is a great example of a spread formation. You read the back. You know, we don't have any immediate threats on our receivers, but our receiver action tells us that they're not going to try to get up the field. They're breaking down to block. Let me see what they're blocking for, and then I can find out which of the threats or which of the blocks need to be officiated because they're going to have an impact on the play. So in conclusion, be prepared to referee the play, and just that, referee the play that's in front of you. We always want to try and make sure that we're officiating a threat. How do we find the threat? Well, you start with your keys. You accumulate all these clues like a board game with murder mystery, you accumulate all these clues that happen during the dead ball period, what formation is in the game, what the defense is doing, is the defense outnumbered at a point of attack, and what the running back is doing in the backfield. And then you officiate the threat based on that progression of reading the play. Even with clues, though, we may respond incorrectly. That's just experience. It's always going to happen where you look back and suddenly someone already has the ball and running at you and you're like, gosh darn it, how did that happen? That happens to us every single game. But with the information that we've given you and you start to integrate that into your toolbox, that's going to happen far less frequently. So with that, I don't know if we have time, Henry, to open it up for questions like Coach Chamberlain does here, but that's all we had for you. Hopefully we kept within the time constraints.
I have a question, Tom. It's Bruce Hawkshaw.
Hey, Bruce, how you doing?
Good, thanks, buddy. You're number one. You know that in our hearts, that's for sure. Excellent session. Just loved it. One question, as I'm coaching my people to do a good job on the crosser. Who is covering him? The official he's running away from, or the official he's running towards the line of scrimmage official?
That's a great question, Bruce. And obviously different plays might have different answers to that question. But typically, if a receiver starts on your side of the field, they're your key. So the person that they're leaving has the best chance of seeing the entire action.
Perfect.
What happens when you switch coverage is that undoubtedly you're going to have two sets of eyes on the wrong thing. It always happens when officials switch coverage. That kind of sends me shivers. So if they start on your side and they're leaving you, you need to be you're the only one that's going to see the whole action, right? If the person picks it up late, they're only going to catch the tail end and we're not going to get a foul. On the play that we showed though, the Alouette play there, it was actually the official that was getting the crosser that made the call. And that was because they didn't have an immediate threat. So sometimes we get lucky. But had there been another threat on the bottom of the screen, they definitely wouldn't have been able to pick up the crosser. And we would hope that it would have been the responsibility of the official at the top.
That's awesome, Tom. I appreciate it. And I liked your thought about the two sets on the wrong thing. So I'm going to use all that. But thanks very much. I appreciate it.
No problem, Bruce. Anytime.
Yeah.
We do have time for questions. So anybody just unmute yourself and ask away.
Don't be shy with the questions, people. Tom likes to talk.
Did you get that impression, Barry?
Tom, you're number one in my heart, buddy. No one else.
Well, nobody else is asking a question. Is Bruce again? Why did we not concentrate on the tackles pre-snap, and then just as the snap happens, do they go forward or do they stand back?
That's actually a great question, Bruce. And I think that, Pat, you might be better at this. I see him in my screen here. I think that that's a really good clue for umpires to pick up and read off of, because the tackles aren't really our threat, our keys. I think it's hard to spend time looking inside and trying to maintain a visual on the tackle as the receivers are kind of cutting in front of you. It's just not natural for us to go to the lineman. I think that the reason is because you're right. That's a really good clue as to whether or not it's going to be a pass or a run. And if you can pick that up, by all means. But I think that our keys, meaning the receivers and the running back, will give us the same information while we're still able to cover our actual keys on the play.
Thanks very much, Tom. That's good. I appreciate it.
No problem. Anytime.
There's a question in the chat window there. I don't know if you can see it there or not.
Hey, Andrew, you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. I can take it. So a question is pass just behind or over the line of scrimmage, not quite a threat, but something important to watch for. How do we prepare for that? So really, really great question. And really one of those ones that, depending on the situation and where you're looking, can catch you a little bit off guard when it happens. And I see you're cycling back here, Tom, but depending on what's happening with your threat and the area, you're going to be able to start to pick apart different clues that will lead you to know what may or may not be about to happen. So as Tom is showing on the screen here, when he saw all the receivers break down and start blocking, first clue in his mind was, I see some blocks happening, probably going to be a screen. It's the only legal pass that could happen. And now you bank that, you know that information. And so when that screen pass ends up invariably going over the line of scrimmage by mistake, now you can use your prior clues to ascertain that you have a foul going forward. So, some of the peeking into the backfield, seeing what the running back's doing, seeing what your receivers are doing early on will start to give you that impression. Or the receiver who's getting the pass, maybe they're threatened right off the bat and they end up getting the passing. You watch the entire action with that receiver and that's what you're ruling on. And then your other officials are similarly picking up early clues, making sure everything else is legal, blocking, etc. And that's how we kind of put it together. So it's never one official, obviously, who has all the information and who's going to get it all right. But hopefully through picking up some of these little clues along the way, when it does happen, you'll know and have the prior information to be able to adjudicate it properly.
I have a question. Tom, Andrew, thank you so much. It was a great presentation. I'm mostly a high school official at this point, so I'm just wondering if there's any differentiation between reading plays in a 6-man game versus 9 or 12.
When you say 6-man game, you mean like 6 players, like 6 aside kind of thing?
Yeah.
So I think that, yes, naturally, the amount of players that you have to watch, the fewer there are, the easier it is to watch the players longer. But undoubtedly, you're going to be responsible for keys. So we tried really hard not to assign specific keys because they vary by how many players there are on the field, how many officials are to officiate that game. So if it's 6 aside and you're only 2 or 3 officials, you're going to be responsible for a lot more players, right, than if there were 5 of you, for example. So I think that what you would need to do is just work through what your keys are. So which players you're going to be responsible for officiating on a play. Most likely, again, you'll probably have running backs and receivers if you're on the line of scrimmage. And based on their actions pre-snap, you'll figure out which ones you need to officiate. And if any have a defender in close proximity, whether they're 6, 9, or 12 aside, you're trying to find the players that have a defender in close proximity will inform where you're going to look when on a play. So I think the basic principles would still apply to 6, 9, or 12 aside football. I don't know if that helps.
It does, thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you for asking.
I think we'll go with the 7 seconds of silence rule. If no one says anything in 7 seconds, we will wrap this part of the presentation up. All right, perfect. Thanks, Tom and Andrew, again for your talk. Very informative. As I said, we are recording these sessions, so we will make them available to other people who could not join with us today. At this point here, we're going to turn it over to Pat Macarthur from the West Coast, well, or the Central Coast, I guess, Central West. Pat, anytime, take it away.
You're on mute there, Pat.
Okay, I'll unmute my. How's that? Okay, guys. I want to thank the Cfoa for allowing me to come talk today. This is really, really good. I've never had this opportunity, so I'm looking forward to hopefully help you guys out a bit if I can. I was told to talk to an intermediate level, so we're not going to get too in-depth on tricks and stuff. If you guys have any questions, or if I ever have a chance to come back and do a 6 or 7 man mechanic kind of thing, that'd be great. I would love to come back for that, but that probably depends on how I do today. So we're going to go through some slides that I've made, and the last few slides are going to be a few slides on my own philosophy with regarding to officiating. We're going to go through some film at the end, if it all works. This is all film from the Quebec League, so I'm not picking on you guys. This is just what was given to me. You guys got a lot of good guys coming out of Quebec, like Prue, Major, the two Pauls, Mish, all those guys were fantastic. So we'll just go right into it right now. So pre-snap, what am I looking at? The biggest thing now we've kind of graduated a bit off the relying on to the ref. You don't have to wait for the ref to wave you off anymore. You got your checks that you got to do, and as long as those checks are completed and everything is good, like we don't, before we're just learning how to be an umpire, we're allowing the referee to say, okay, you can leave now. Well, we can leave before he gives us that signal. So we're going to check the downs box, make sure it's set. That's the most important thing. Once we've got the ball set, make sure the down box is there. We're going to check for subs, and we can look at both sides, defense and offense, if we're on the same field. If the offense is substituting from far away, give them a chance to get there. We don't have to leave the ball right away. Also, when we're sitting there, we're also looking, look for subs from a distance on both sides. Look for the big guys coming in. We're going to have to report, and sometimes those big guys coming in, we can see who they are and they're going to come in. And it's important to report not just to your own crew, the officials that are there and the referee, but it's also important to report to the defense to let them know who are the guys that are coming in, just in case they line up and they peel off for a pass. There's a slide coming up or a film coming up later that'll show, a signaling or a guy signaling just to the referee. Well, in that situation, I would stop the play and signal to everybody, and then we'll start the play again. Make sure the ref is in his position. Okay, not only do you have to make sure, the ball's set, downs box is set, you've checked for subs, you look at the ref, he's in the right position to go. So we're going to give him a saying, we're going to go to our position, either regular or short yardage. Now, short yardage, that's something we're going to have to talk about later, but it's also something that you're going to have to speak with the referee to give you time to get to your position and make sure that he doesn't blow the whistle while you're still in the middle of the mess. Count the offense once they break the huddle or at your earliest convenience. You don't have to wait till they break the huddle. If I'm up the line, I'm counting, I'm seeing subs, I can look in the backfield and see, okay, how many people did they got in that huddle? But it's really easy to count when they come out, because as they separate, some little guy might be hidden in the back by the big offensive lineman, so it's hard to see him. But yeah. So lineup. They come out before with these statistics or these positions where you're supposed to line up. My most important feeling about lineup, especially as an umpire, is to line up where you feel safe. I know some of the mechanics say 10 yards. I know some mechanics say 10 yards opposite the referee, but you got to go where you feel safe. If you and the referee are on the same side of the ball, that's okay. As long as you give them a signal to say, hey, I'm watching the short side of the line here, even though I'm lined up directly in front of you. Because this is, when I look at how the defense set up and I look at how the offense is set up, this is where I feel safe. Okay, and so go to that position, and these mechanics that we give you are more of a guideline than anything that tell you where you're going. So it's always, as an umpire, and I always used to get upset when people would tell me, oh, you got to line up here, who have never played the position before. No, I'm going to go where I feel safe. So I like to line up personally about 8 to 6 yards off the line of scrimmage. I know the set mechanics sometimes say 10, but I've had conversations out here in the West once with, certain individuals about the mechanics and how we line up. And there was a philosophy at one time where we were 10 yards and stationary. No one moved from that position. And I'm like, why are we telling our guys to line up at 10 yards, and not move? That's ridiculous. Like if the play goes to the opposite side of the field, you're not going to see anything, right? So line up where you feel safe. I like to go 8 to 6, depending, if I go 8 yards at the beginning if I'm looking in the backfield and I'm seeing, an I formation or 2 running backs. If the pocket is empty and it's just the quarterback, I might move up to 6, but then if I see a slot back just prior to the snap starting to run behind the line of scrimmage, I might back up again, right? But it's all in the position of what their defense is giving me, where I line up. And also, the players have the choice of position. So if they've lined up in a certain position, then I'll move to counter to where I think I'm going to be safe at the time, and so always give the players the chance to take their position first. And then I'll take my position second. Well, again, can't be same side as the ref. Communicate to the ref what you're watching, but you can line up in the safe when you feel safe. Check yardage and downs for possible play choices. If I'm in 1st and 10, that opens up their whole playbook. If I'm in 2nd and 3, chances are they're going to do a run. Everyone's kind of up closer. I might move up closer, but if they're 3rd and 6, I'm going to go to the 6-yard line, or where they have to get in order to judge the play that if it's a quick pass over the middle and it's just a 6-yard pass, I'm there right away to see if the yardage was made or not. So it all depends on what the downage is, what the yardage is, what their backfield is showing. So lineup continued. Stay off the hash marks. Okay, hash marks are at the amateur levels, I found, was more of a pass route. Okay, so if I'm lining up on the hash marks, then I'm lining up right in a place where they want to go. So let's try and get ourselves off the hash marks. And again, it always comes back to where I feel safe. Prior to the snap, look at the quarterback. If the quarterback comes up to the line and he's doing his checks, he's doing his left head, right check, counting up the play. If his last look is at me, then he's using me as a hot route. Okay. So if I'm sitting in the position and I'm watching the line, I'm watching the center guard tackle on my side. I'm looking more at the guard right now for he's going to tell me whether it's going to be a pass or a run, not the tackle. But that's after the snap is done. So you're watching the ball, and if I'm looking at the quarterback and he looks directly at me, I'm moving, because he's just found out where I am. He's just found out what I'm doing, and he's going to use me as a place to run his hot route. 3rd and long, I like to go where they have to get. So let's say they're 3rd and 10, then I'll line up at the 10-yard, 10 yards away. Third and goal and short for my lineup again. So you're lining up, let's say it's 3rd and 3 or 3rd and 2. Again, line up where they have to go. I line up outside the tackle, but I'll let more people fill in to the position. If I'm lined up outside the tackle, and I like to face the line like I am a linebacker, so I'm square to the line. To me, I felt that gives me more places for escape route. So when I come up to 3rd goal and short, I line up to I look behind me to see if anyone's lining up behind me. And I look also to see if I can find that escape route that I'm looking for. So 3rd and goal, I'm facing the line. I'm at the place where they have to get, not generally just the 1 yard off the line into scrimmage, and I'm facing forward. On the goal line, I tend not to use the goal post as a cover. I find sometimes our guys get too far behind that goal post, and then their heads are just peeking out. I find out where the goal post is so I can use it as an escape route. So if I line myself up and I know I'm on this side of the goal post, if the play starts coming to me, I'm backing into that goal post as possible. But I do not line up at the goal post. I think that takes us about 2 or 3 yards, about 2 yards off the line of scrimmage or where the goal line is, and I don't like it. And that's a big one, the last one. Find your avenues to escape prior to the snap. So when you come up and you line up and you're in your position and you're looking, down the line of scrimmage prior to them even lining up, and hopefully your referee gives you time to get to your position. Make sure you know where you're going. And going into the offensive backfield is an option. Like before they used to say, down the line or back up, but I don't like backing up in a situation where players are coming forward in order to get to the place. But as long as I know that there's no one behind me, I'll back up. But also if I get caught, because I can feel the presence of people coming, you can go into the offensive backfield to avoid the rush. And get ready to pucker, because there are some times when you're on that line and the whole play is coming to you, and you're trying not to get hit, but it happens, and you're just going to have to go with it sometimes. But hopefully you've got yourself into a position where you feel safe. Hopefully you got yourself into a position where you found your outlets, and you won't have to really concentrate too much on the last one, but sometimes it happens. So special situations that we're looking for, again, from my lineup, are down and distance, empty backfield or full backfield. More big guys on the line, i.e. they brought their big guys in, so we got tight ends. That's going to tell me it's a pass. If everybody's up, there's no reason why I can't move up also with the play. You don't have to be with the linebackers, but like I said, if I start at 8 and I notice that everyone's moved up, I can move up to 6. So at the snap, always forward. The play you're going to get yourself in a lot of trouble is if you start backing up as an umpire, because you don't know where the defense has shifted from the time you started. You don't know where their players are going, as the offense is moving and the defense is reacting. You don't know if they've lined up behind you now or where they've lined up. So it always go forward. Never, if you can avoid it, never go backwards. On runs, you can see the play all collapses into the middle, and as they come out, step up into that hole, and you do the step and shift to the side and let them go by you, right? But no running back is going to run directly at you, or you hope that they're smart enough not to run directly at you. So if they break through that hole and you're facing him, you step up and make a decision. He'll go the other direction because he doesn't really want to get tangled up with you. Definitely on passes. And why I say definitely on passes is the minute you read pass and everything starts shifting, step up into the hole that's left by the linebackers peeling out, or step into a hole that's there before the linebackers peel out, because that takes you from getting in their way. And also as the line starts to close or line starts to bow, you're closer now to see the action that's happening. If I'm standing at 10 and the play snaps and the line starts bowing, now I'm 15 yards possibly away from a hole that I could see. Where if I moved up with the play as the play started, I'm still around 10 to 8, which makes it easier to see. I'll roll with runs. So the minute that we see that the plays are run and we're going to watch what's happening, we're going to start shifting our loan. So let's say the play rolls away from us. So now that the play is rolling away from it, I don't really have to worry much about what's happening on my backside, because the important stuff now is happening in the front. So I'm going to roll with the play. And I'm going to look. My checkdowns are just going to be a lot quicker till I get to those checkdowns which are the outside blocks. And those are the ones that I'm going to start focusing on. And the reason why we roll with the run, if I just stayed there and the play went away from me, now I'm 20 yards away from the play, right? So, but if I continue to follow the play, I'm still in that 10, 8-yard gap. I'm looking ahead at where the blocks or the potential blocks are coming that could spring the guy are coming from, and we can rule on whether those are good or not. And the main thing I'm trying to say in the snap area is move. A lot of times I watch at the amateur levels and I watch the umpires, and they get into a position because that's what they were told, and they stay in that position. Well, you're not being very effective to the rest of the crew if all you're doing is staying in that position and spotting the ball. So let's get on the idea that as the play moves, we move with it. Churning with passes. I watched a couple of film plays that was sent to me by Thomas. And the one thing I noticed a lot of the umpires are doing, and again, I'm not picking on the East Coast guys, but once the ball is passed, they're still watching the line of scrimmage. And nothing that's going to happen on the line of scrimmage, unless it's a UR, is going to affect what's happening with the pass going on downfield. So the minute that you feel that ball's going over your head, or the minute you feel the ball's going wherever the direction the ball's going, you churn with that pass and you watch to see, because especially in the middle, where we only have 5 officials on the field, you could get a skip and it's totally blocked out to everybody. but the umpire if the umpire churned. So you got to churn with those passes. You know, my mechanic was I would duck and churn because I didn't want to pass. Some of those passes that are coming right over top, you don't want to get hit in the head. So you duck and churn with the play. And at the same time, and that already brings me down to the low level. So I can see already, I'm already looking down below, see if the ball has skipped, and then I come back up and see what's going on with the rest of the play. When you get to spots, don't worry too much about the spot unless it dives directly around your feet. Watch the pile in the perimeter, leave the spotting from the outside guys. You know, they don't have much to do out there, but spot. So when they do the spot, and they got a better look than we will have as we're running with the play. So let them do that job, but watch the pile that happens around. That's where you're going to get the little cheap shots thrown. You're going to get the URs happening. And if we're watching that stuff and not focused on the spot, and we're just lifting our heads and watching the area, we're going to see a lot more of the stuff that goes on in that time. Punts and field goals. Again, this time we're lining up 10 yards. Now we're actually on the weak side of the tackle. And we're moving up again at the snap. The minute the ball snap, start moving up. And it's really, you're not really going to get in a wash too much on a field goal. You're going to get in a wash more in a punt. So what we're going to do is we're going to move up. The ball's going to be kicked. The first wave's going to pass us. And then we're going to go out to the sideline that we have to cover. Same position on field goals, but just make sure you have a good look at the center. This is where this on field goals is generally where the center gets corked more than he does on punts, because they're more trying to get in there and block the pass. I mean, block the punt than they are with the field goal. With the field goal, there's a good chance for some of the defensive guys to get a cheap shot on that center. So in the field goal position, lining him the same way, but you're looking more at that center to make sure that he's protected. Okay, these last few slides are just my own philosophy now that I've kind of come with over the years with regards to being an umpire and umpire dynamics and such. Penalties, but umpire dynamics, us versus them, that has to go. It's no longer, well, we're going out there and we're going to ref these guys and they're going to follow what we say and they're going to do what we tell them. And so that us versus them mentality has to go. They actually work better for you when you talk to them. You know, so talk to them like you would like to be talked to, you know, and instead of using like a dictatorial kind of formation with, you know, what's going on, talk to them and say, you know, hey, 57 on that last play, your hands were getting up. Let's get them down, and that avoids me calling a penalty. And you'll be surprised, you know, first off, they're shocked that you're actually watching. And the second thing is you've given them a break. You know, even if the play wasn't close enough to be calling a penalty, if you talk to them, trust me, they're going to get their hands down. They're stop holding. It's going to be a totally different game for you to officiate. And get them on your side, and they'll play for you. You know, and that's what I'm talking about with the communication. You know, just keep talking to these guys. Let them know what's up. Let them know that, yeah, I saw that play. Yeah, I saw that, and this is, you know, the hold. Or even if they come up to you, or the defense comes up to you and says, hey, I was being held, and you said, yeah, you were, but this isn't the reason. This is the reason why I didn't call that play. You know, majority of the time they're okay with that. They just want to know that you're watching. Penalties. What counts penalty? And my biggest thing that I ever look at is affect and effect. You know, so did it affect the play, and is it an effective hold? And to me, in my philosophy is I need both of these in order to have a call. Okay, it's not just one of them. If I have one of them, then I have nothing. You know, especially with umpires, you know, it's said all the time you could call holding every time on the play. And they're possibly right. You probably could call holding every time, but did it affect the play? And a lot of things is if I'm watching the end and there's a hole, but the ball's already passed or the play's going the other direction, what did that hold affect? Nothing. So I'm going to let that go. And at the lower levels, it's a coaching versus a flag mentality that I had when I was coaching when I was reffing at the amateur level. You know, you get these little peewee kids and these little bantam kids, and they're crossing that line where they're close to holding, but it's not really going to do you any good to flag them, because we'd be throwing flags all day. So coach them into not making that play, you know, coach them into not making that hold, or when they feel that hold, you know, when to release it, when to let it go. Evolution of football. Be open to conversations, as I said earlier. And we have to start calling the game with safety in mind. And this really happens at the grassroots. So it's more really indicative of what you guys do at the lower levels that help as they go on to college, as they go on to junior, as some of them might go on to pro. The game has changed. And we have to change with it as officials, you know, stuff that we would allow before, like hitting to the whistle, blindside blocks, hit to the whistle, tourist hits, you know, those are all gone now. And the reason why they're gone is if I don't start calling this now at this level, at the lower levels, when the kids are still malleable and you can still have some sort of impression on them, by the time they come up to the juniors and the college, it's too late. You know, but if we can get it into their heads now that this is what we have to call, then by the time they get up to there, it's going to be gone. And also, what parent is going to put their kid into a sport where he can get a concussion every time he plays football? So you have to, the game has changed. It's no longer, because I was part of the old crew where, you know, we would see a tourist hit or a play hit, you know, to the whistle. And well, the whistle isn't gone, you know, so that was a great hit. You know what, but that's gone. And we have to change with it. And if you don't change it, we might not have a sport to officiate. We are not there to make the game even. Once in a while, you get those guys, those athletes that come on the field, and they're just so much better than everybody else. And we're not there to make the game. We're there to make the game fair and make sure the game is reffed accordingly. But if some big guy is tackling some guys or blocking some kids and literally putting them on their butts because they're just that much better, well, we can't make the game even. And I really saw that with my own kid when he played. So I saw that and it made me frustrated. So that's my presentation. I'm going to go to some film now, but that's my name, Patrick Macarthur. I gave you my email address. I know we don't have a lot of time for questions at this point, because we're not doing an open forum talk, but if you guys have any questions, you could send it to me. If you have any questions during your season and you'd like a different point of view, you can send that to me also. So we're just gonna go take a look at some plays. Okay. Can everyone see that? Okay, so we'll try and watch this one. This is a pass play that, oh, that one's not available, but it'll switch to the next one. Okay. So we're looking initially at the lineup. The lineup is fine. You know, he's looking straight ahead. Everything's good. Play starts, turns into a pass. Now it evolved into a pass a while ago, and he didn't move. Okay, so he does move when he feels that guy's presence coming, which is great. But if he had moved at the snap, he wouldn't have been in that way at all. And we'll see a real good look at it from this other side. Like, you know, his position is fine. He's looking what he's supposed to look. But see, that guy comes into that position. But the minute you read pass, if you move up, you really know you wouldn't be in that guy's way at all. This one I think is just showing not turning with the pass. You see how the pass is gone and he's still looking forward. But what are we looking forward at this point? You know, unless you see some guys mucking it around here, you might want to hang back and watch them to see if they're going to cause a UR. But at this point, there's really no use for me sitting here and watching the line when the ball's gone. Now this play, you don't have to churn as quickly because it is a high pass to the outside, not a quick short pass over the middle. But I would personally like to see him churn. Okay, bang. Happens once in a while. Umpire gets hit by the ball. Okay. The only time that ball is still alive is on a field goal, which absolutely makes no sense to me. But it's hit me. So it can't deflect up and be caught by this individual here. And then I go take a spot. Okay, so the ball's coming out, it hits me, bang, it's dead. This is another play where it's developed into a pass play. The umpire doesn't move and gets kind of caught up with a player. Now, if he had moved the minute the ball snapped, and you can see it's a pass play. Now it's a pass play. If I move up now with the pocket collapsing, I won't be in this way. Besides the shorts, this play is good. I liked how he covered the ball. He takes time out. He signals. I don't like the backup of 243, but that's just a personal condition.
You'd want that incomplete though, right, Patty?
Which one?
That exact play should be incomplete, right?
Let's see. You think it's a banger? That's a tough one. I understand what you're saying about a bang bang play. So basically what the question was is, did the player have enough time with the ball to actually make that a completed pass? So if this umpire has viewed it that he's tucked it and secured it, then he's ruling a fumble, right? In this situation, I would give it either way. If you killed that, I'd be okay. If you want to rule that a fumble and go, I'd be okay with that too. What do we got here? Oh, this play. Okay, so I put this play was put on, and I like this play. Is now the umpire is going on with the situation, and the ball's gone. Okay, so we got to now in that situation where the ball's gone, start reffing more what's happening in the back. Okay, there's two guys down in the field. They're going to referee whether the ball's in, out, whether he's made a touchdown. We're going to watch for the garbage. And the garbage I'm talking about, it's not big, but right here, you see all of a sudden you see a guy moving faster than the play. Okay, and that's this individual here, if you can see my arrow. Well, number 67 is about to be hit by this guy. Okay. Now there's not much there, but that had the potential to lead to one of those tourist kind of hits where the guys now just fall in the play and he's watching the thing and this guy comes up and cranks him. Okay. In that situation, no, that's not a penalty. There's just a big guy, but it had the potential to lead up. And so when you're watching the play go by you and it's gone, right? Look out to the side and find a guy. If you see a guy moving faster than everybody else, watch him because nothing good is going to come from him. Okay, and this was good. Like the umpire rolled out and he moved, but then he stopped, right? And now the play is down here and the pile's down here. And again, these are just ticky-tacky things I'm talking. Now he's fixing his finger adjustment, right? Well, the play could still be happening and there could be stuff happening here. We can fix our finger adjustment. We can fix our down counters when we've lined up over the ball. But let's, while the play is going on, let's just watch what's happening. Am I still good with time?
Yeah, I think so there, Pat. We'll probably take a question or two.
Okay, but there's two plays I want to show. I want to show this play. And that's because what is he reffing? Okay, the play has gone to the side and he's walking on the field down here. Okay, so this is the play where, this is kind of thing where I'm saying, we got to go, we got to move, right? And the minute the play starts going outside, let's move with it, because right now I am 20 to 30 yards away from the play. And I'm actually no use to anybody being out here. I want to find the one goal line. Nope, that's not the right one. That's not the right one.
Which one is it, Patty?
The one where the guy gets hit.
Or that almost that gets hit?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you go backwards. Yeah, it's probably number 10, 11? No, not 10, 11.
No.
No. Oh, that's a good one. You can show that one.
Well, this guy's awesome. I don't know where you found this umpire, but this guy's fantastic. So he's lining up. We got the thing from the referee check, and this is what I'm talking about. Square to the line, off the line. Okay, facing forward. The escape route's already picked. So we come down the line to see what's happening. It's coming, moving, play's going things. So person stands up and lets the ball go by. Comes in. And signals a touchdown between he and the down guy. You have that? You don't have that play up here? Okay, here it is. Okay, so one, on this setup here, I would like the umpire to be up here. Okay, away off the post. You know, he's using the post, but right now he's really close to this guy, so be out here. They say, you know, you're trying to cut the play off between you and the short side line of scrimmage pressure. Okay, not so this guy. So if you want to move here, you're still far closer than this guy is over here. Okay, and that's why I'm saying, you know, take that position. The players get the choice. Okay, because you'll watch as the play goes. Now the pocket's collapsing and he steps in front of the linebacker. Okay, if you're going to play the post, and that's where you feel safe, that's fine. But as the linebacker moves that way, you have to come out this way. Okay, and he gets hit by the linebacker in the back, and he actually was a very good blocker because the running back ran in that hole. Would that linebacker stop him? I don't know, but let's not give that opportunity to be a blocker. Now here, so he's recognizing here that we have a big guy coming in. Okay, and who does he let know? The ref. Okay, so in this situation, if they came in and I didn't know that this guy was coming in, I would personally, and this is my personal opinion, I would have stopped the play, let the ref know on the thing, and would also let the defense know, because they got to know that this guy's eligible to come out for a pass, right? And so you just can't let the referee know. You got to let everybody know. Okay, so in that situation, I would have stopped the play. I would not reset the 20-second clock because it was the offensive that's causing the delay. And then off, I would not suggest we reset. It's still up to the referee whether he wants to reset. And again, if you just look at the play, like he's backed up, he's looking over the shoulder of this guy. If I'm out here on the line, I don't have to look over top of him. And then gets in the way. Okay, so we'll stop it there. Does anyone have any questions?
There are a couple of questions in the chat there, Pat, which I think are the only ones we'll have time to cover here. First one was, what is your thought on putting the umpire in the offensive backfield on a punt? This would allow you to watch the side of the line without getting caught in the wash after the punt.
That's not a bad idea. because you're not fighting anybody. There's not really a lot of things you have to watch on a punt. So yeah, that might, on a punt play only, that might be the best way. But on a field goal, you can't monitor the center close enough to see if he's getting destroyed. So on a field goal, I would say no. But on a punt play, yeah, that gets him out of the wash right away. As long as he realizes he's got to book it over to the side and down the field, that should be fine.
Great. The next one would be, would watching the line of scrimmage after the pass goes over your head not assist the referee in holding or UR calls? There are already 3 other officials watching the pass and penalties at that point.
Yes, I see what you're saying there. I don't agree with that, because once the pass is gone, the only thing that's left is UR. UR and objectional conduct and stuff that comes afterwards. But once the pass is gone, holding is no longer relevant. And that's where I go back with that affect and effect is once I've already left the play, or once the pass has already gone over my head, then there is no reason for me to be watching the line of scrimmage. And I can help with those coverage or those quick skips over the middle. But that's just my point of view. I would say no. Do not stay and watch the line of scrimmage. You're not offering anything.
Okay, I think we can probably take 1 or 2 more questions if there's anyone's out there before we bring up our next presenter. So we'll do it the 7 seconds of silence. So if you want to unmute yourself for a question, go right ahead.
Hi, Pat. This is Karen Riddell.
Mhm.
Basically, when I was in the umpire position, they always pulled me back, which I agree with you. Depends where you are. But I was always taught you can go forward or sideways, depending on what the play is and how you read it, and that, but never to go backwards. What's your opinion on going sideways?
Sideways, absolutely, right? Because if you're going to a side where you can actually use your peripheral vision and see what's there, right? So that's not a too bad of a situation. But I totally agree with what you say. Going backwards is no. Forwards is a must. And but I disagree with what they're saying. You go where you feel safe. So if that's at 8 yards, 9 yards, or 6 yards, you got to go where you feel you want to be not contacted, and where you feel that you're going to have the best chance to ref the game.
Thank you.
Last chance. All right. Thanks, Pat. Great topic. Great information for us umpires. Survival of the fittest, let's say. Appreciate your giving up your time, you, Tom, and Andrew today, for sharing some of your vast knowledge with us. And hopefully we can all learn something from this. Just letting you know that you are now entitled to 1 free drink in the province of Nova Scotia within the next year if you can get out of lockdown. So that goes for all you guys. Thanks again. At this point now, we'll turn it over to our last presenter of the day, Adam Hinks. For those, Adam is basically an OUFA, if I say it correctly, or OFA official. Works based out of Hamilton, I should say, HFOA. Spent a couple of years in the CFL. Actually, ironically, sells insurance, or shouldn't say sells insurance, works for the insurance company that the CFOA does get their insurance from. Now, this is not a pitch for you to sign up for the CFOA policy, just some things that you may want to be interested for those who don't get their insurance through us. We all think we're insured. We all think we have coverage until we get to a point where something happens and we find out that we're not, or what we thought we have and what we truly have are 2 different things. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Adam Hinks. And thanks again, Adam, for giving up a little bit of your time today to enlighten us on what's our coverage. And we're not talking about receivers. You're muted, Adam.
How's that?
Perfect.
Okay. Thanks for the intro, Barry. Thanks for the time on a Saturday. I know everybody is super excited to talk about insurance and what they've got. So yeah, let's get her going. I'm just going to try and share the slideshow. Can everybody see that okay?
I can.
Okay, beauty. Okay, so yeah, as Barry said, I official with Hamilton, official with the Ontario University panel. I've had the pleasure of doing some games across the coast or coast to coast. And yeah, right now just want to talk about the thing that's on everybody's mind, which is the insurance. So I am an insurance broker. I am incidentally with the insurance brokerage that the CFOA purchased their insurance from, but I'm not here as a representative of BFL Canada, just here strictly giving everybody kind of that, here's what you've got for coverage. You may know what you've got, you may not, you may think you know and not. So hopefully at the end of this, you've got some enlightenment as to what coverage you've got in place and what's available. But at the end, if you've got questions, something I didn't address, my email will be there. Shoot me an email, and we'll get back to you. So quick disclaimer, this is really not an insurance pitch as to what you need. It's an insurance pitch as to what you've got, and it's strictly based on what the CFOA is purchasing presently. So if you are with an organization who's purchasing your coverage separately, independently on your own, it's not speaking to that. This is strictly speaking to the CFOA. I'm just noticing my background, so I don't know what that is or how to change it, but here we are. Okay, so the CFOA insurance program, so it is available to all member organizations across the country. So that's your local association has the option of purchasing your insurance through the CFOA through on a per official basis. So there's two main types of coverage for everybody who is a member, and that's general liability and sports accident. So we'll get into that a little bit as to what those two differentiators are. And the premiums are based on a per official. So in Hamilton, each year we'll let the registrar know how many officials we had for the year, and we'll pay a premium based on that. Okay, so there's three main policies that the CFOA purchases now. So there's general liability, which is accessed by or covers all members. There's sports accident coverage, which covers all members. And there's directors and officers insurance, which is the CFOA board of directors only. So if you go on the CFOA website, somewhere in the documents, it'll list all three policies, but just know that there's two policies that apply to you. And then there's the one policy that will apply strictly for the board of directors with the CFOA. That's water. Okay, so general liability. So who is covered? So all association members, past and present, the entity that you work for. So meaning I'll use Hamilton, which is the Hamilton Football Officials Association. So the HFOA as an entity has coverage, as well as a provincial association. So OFOA, Alberta, Manitoba. I think there's a couple more provinces out there. So as an entity, those associations all have coverage under general liability. So we'll talk about what is covered by general liability. So general liability, it's really, this is the big one. This is the coverage that really keeps us safe out there from a financial point of view. So it's anything that's brought against third party or brought by a third party alleging your negligence caused bodily injury or property damage. So really what we're talking about here is bodily injury. So coverage includes not only the damages that are awarded, but also the defense costs. And that's the big one. So if we're sued, if I'm out there reffing a game and obviously no fault of my own, a kid is injured, nothing stops that family or that player from suing us because we were there, we were at the field, we were a part of the game. We'll be sued, whether we did something wrong or not, it's not relevant. We still have to pay a lawyer to defend us. That's the big thing. So that's what's covered. That's what the general liability coverage is doing for us. It's worth knowing though, there is a deductible that applies to it. It's $1,000. And that comes from the first dollar. So as soon as we're notified and we have to contact a lawyer, there's a deductible that would apply to that, but that's a one-time deductible. And if the case ends up closing for, some exorbitant amount of money, $1,000 just applies that first time from $1. So the general liability, the general liability limit the CFOA program carries is $5 million, which on as a benchmark, it is the normal limit. 5 million is quite high. But we'd be surprised as to what those lawsuits can get up to. But 5 million is the limit we've got. $1,000 deductible, as I mentioned, applies to expenses from $1, and the policy runs on a calendar year, September 25th to September 25th. So kind of right smack in the middle of most of our seasons. So quick example, player breaks his leg, the player has some nerve damage, and they decide to sue. So again, when they sue, they're not just suing the person that tackled them or the league or the team that they played for or with. They'll sue the trainers. They could sue the owner of the field. They could sue the person who cuts the grass of the field. They'll sue the officials. They'll sue the association. They'll sue the provincial body. They could sue the national body. They can sue fans in the stands. Basically, they'll just throw it all against the wall and see what sticks. So in this instance, this player may end up, the policy may pay out $1 million for this player's injury. It's up to the courts to determine really who's at fault. So the courts, unfortunately or fortunately, have the final say as to who gets or whose policies will have to cough up that payment and who be responsible. So in this instance, player breaks his leg, nothing to do with us, but the fact that we're there, it could be one of those things where they say, okay, Adam, HFOA, OFOA, CFOA, you guys are responsible for 100,000 or $1 million or 5 million of that payment, and it's up to the court. And then our policy would have to respond to that based on how the court rules. Okay, so that's it for general liability. The next coverage that really affects us all is sports accident. So this is any official who's working a game, an authorized game, and is injured. So kind of define the word authorized. So authorized means you're working on behalf of the association who's employing you. So if I'm doing a game for Hamilton Minor football and I'm injured, I've got coverage as long as it was assigned by the referee in chief for Hamilton. If there was a small touch league that came to me and said, hey, Adam, we know you've got a flag and a striped shirt and a whistle. Can you officiate a game for us? And I just said, yeah, sure. What the hell? I'll go ahead and do it. That's not an authorized game. That's not an assigned game. Hence, there's no coverage. So if I'm hurt in that game, I'm on my own. But anything that's assigned by your association, you are covered for. And this is interesting, that second note that says this is regardless of whether Football Canada members or not. It's not relevant. At the end of the day, not all of our customers are members with Football Canada. But know that the CFOA program will respond whether it's a Football Canada organization or it is not under their banner. Okay, so when am I covered? It's working a sanctioned game and you're hurt at the game. So you're on the field, you twist your ankle on a sprinkler head, you break your leg, you get hit by a ball, you suffer a concussion during the course of the game, you've got coverage. The benefits are payable though. This isn't your first coverage. So if you're injured at a game, you let us know, but this isn't the policy that you come to for all of the aches and pains, all of the rehabilitation, everything else. It's known that the benefits are paid by whatever organization, whatever province, any private benefits, whatnot. This is a backstop policy. So if you're hurt, come back to us at some point, if you're hurt during a game, come back to us at some point. This policy may respond. But we'll have to exhaust all other plans before we come to the sports accident policy. That said, there are a few payments that would be made kind of in bulk, whether there's an existing program or not. So if there is a serious injury, if you die during a game, we'll give your family the large sum of $15,000. But there are some other benefits. So if you're paralyzed, broken legs, different types of injuries that'll receive a lump sum payment. Those are also covered on the sports accident. So I've got a PDF. I think if we have time, which we probably will have a few, I'll pop that up, but you'll see it's a chart that basically outlines in case of these types of injuries, here's a lump sum payment that'll be made. Anything else of the supplementary payments will be made once everything else that you have access to has been exhausted. This is the example. Somebody breaks their leg during a game. Accident happened in Ontario, so OHIP will pay for the majority of the examinations, the x-rays, the whatnot, the procedure to fix the leg, but you may be on your own for the ambulance. You may be on your own for crutches, some rehabilitation. Those are the types of payments that you'll come back to the sports accident policy, and we'd seek reimbursement for those through this program. Okay, so that's silo 2 or bucket 2 of the program. So the last one is directors and officers. So this is worth knowing mostly for anybody on the call who is a member of your existing board. If you're on your own local association, whether you're president, vice president, on the director, you serve the local association somehow. right now, the way the policy is set up is there's not coverage for those groups. So this is coverage just for the CFOA. So the president, vice president of the CFOA will have these coverages. So what's covered is basically any breach of fiduciary duty to your members. So money. So all of a sudden money disappears, it's spent poorly. That'll trigger coverage. And the other one would be employment practices. So somebody who within the organization decides they haven't advanced to a certain level, or they didn't feel safe working games because of something the board of directors did, that the board of directors would have coverage for those types of lawsuits. So that coverage is presently set at $1 million. There is no deductible for this coverage. There's an August 1st effective date or expiry date for those interested. But again, this is just for CFOA. So I've had some conversations with the broker who manages the program for the CFOA, as well as some members of the CFOA executive. And this is kind of one of those gaps that we've identified that is worth communicating. So at some point over the next few weeks or month or so, I think the plan is we'll be communicating to all of the local associations to say, hey, this is an important coverage for you as members of your executive, members of your association that you should consider, and we should be looking at it. So it is, hopefully we'll get some applications off to every group, and you can decide whether you want to go ahead with that or not. So that's it for the 3 buckets. The big thing is the claim. So at the end of the day, yeah, insurance is great to have. Hope to never have a claim, but if something goes sideways, what do we do? So one of the questions that came in advance was, what do I do in the event of a sports accident claim? So if I'm hurt on the field, what do we do? So these are just kind of the quick pointers, and there's an application, or pardon me, a claims notice that'll show you as well. But the big thing is get a copy of an accident report for something done at the scene, at the game. Have a copy of that. If there's any circumstances that are kind of leading to the injury, you know, the field was in bad condition, that kind of thing, let us know. Document things as much as possible. Any receipts, invoices, bills, whatever you get, whatever you go out of pocket for, hang on to those receipts. Whatever you receive a bill for down the road, hang on to those, because those are possibly coverages, those are possibly expenses that you'd want to be claiming under this policy. So hang on to those because they will ask for them at some point. If you are hurt in a game, for sure, and this is one where we've seen some things slip through the crack, let your association know, right? Every association, there's dozens of games a week, or, I mean, eventually, hopefully we will get back to dozens of games per week. The executive may not know, right? Somebody on the crew may not notify anybody. So it's important to let your executive know so that it can get passed up the chain. So it needs to get to the CFOA, it needs to be reported, because if you don't let us know, there's really no way to assist. So get it on record, get it with us, get it with your executive or the CFOA, and let us help you get that claim pushed through. So the big thing is that notice of claim must be filed within 30 days. So barring any crazy circumstances where you're in a coma for 45 days because of the incident, you need to have that claim on file. So there is a claim notice, and I'll show you where we can at least share it with everybody. Just some high-level information that you need to have filled out and then sent off to the insurer. So yeah, we'll show you that in a second. Now this is the big one, because this can be the costly one. So what do you do in the event of a general liability claim? Unfortunately, we're not going to know a general liability claim. It likely is not going to hit our books within a day or two. Where a sports accident, you get hurt, you know you're hurt, you put through the claim. General liability, it could come up to 2 years after the game itself. So one of the recommended best practices would be anytime there's an injury, a severe injury at a game, if an ambulance attends, if something just out of the norm happens, it's a great practice to have your association, all your members understand that we need a game report. So document as much information as possible. So, and not just the officials, I mentioned timers, support crew, sticks, whoever's there, put it in writing. So what happened? How was the weather? What was the field like? Did you do a pregame walk? Were the players extra chippy? Was it a fan out of the stands that came down and did something nuts? Record all that, because in 2 years' time, when that claim may get filed at kind of the end of that reporting period, whatever happened that day is long in your memory, right? And it's probably forgotten. If you've got something on hand and you've sent it to the referee in chief, you've sent it to your association, that'll be a huge asset when that lawsuit eventually may or may not go to trial. But we'll have some documented evidence from that time. So just worth understanding that, you know, the more information we've got, the better. So if you see something that goes weird that could come back and bite us, document it as much as possible. So if you do ever get a letter though from a lawyer, from a family, from anybody, just threatening action or holding us responsible, get this off to the CFOA eventually, so the CFOA can pass that on to the insurance carrier. Never admit guilt, never assign blame or fault to anyone ever. This includes the media. This could be standing around waiting for the ambulance to show up saying, yeah, if I had thrown that flag 5 plays ago, that never would have happened. These are things we want to keep to ourselves. Whatever you may think, not relevant, but whatever you state could, unfortunately be held against you at some point. So keep that in mind. Just, we wish the player, the injured person, all the best, but any trying to figure out who's done wrong, not our position. One of the questions that was sent in advance was, if you are not part of this group, if you're not purchasing your insurance presently through the CFOA, your association may be purchasing it on their own. You may be relying on your provincial sports organization, whether it's the, in Ontario, we have the Ontario Football Alliance. It could be through Football Canada. You're relying on a third party to get your insurance. What should you look for? So the 2 coverages, the main ones we spoke about, those need to be there. You need general liability. You need sports accident. The challenge with purchasing it from an organization such as Football Canada or your provincial sports group is they control the policy, they hold the cards. So if that policy is canceled, the limits are eroded because they've had some claims on some other leagues or something, we may never know about that. We'll never be made aware of it, and they don't have to. If the policy is canceled and we haven't done our due diligence in making sure that we'll be added to their policy as an additional insured, we may never know. So you could be inadvertently working games with lower limits. You could be working games where the coverage has been expired or canceled, and we'll never know. So if you are going to purchase through them, make sure your association is being added as additional insured to those policies, just so you can be made aware of any of those issues. The other thing, make sure the sports accident policy is given to you. You want to make sure that there is actually sports accident coverage in place, what those limits look like. Does it cover officials or is it just for players? Because not all policies are created equally. And as we know, officials aren't always at the top of everybody's mind. So let's make sure that if we are purchasing through another group, that they consider the officials and what we need, and that we'd actually be a covered entity. So don't just assume, well, they've got insurance, so we're okay. You got to dig into it. You got to ask some questions. And these would be kind of the starting point for what to ask. That's all we've got for questions, that's all I've got for the presentation. We'll get to questions. I just wanted to show quickly, if I can figure this out, what the sports accident policy would look like. I mentioned the meat chart in there. Oops. So I think I'm still sharing this. Oh, no, I'm not. New share. Resume share. Okay. Sorry, gang. This is not my expertise. Okay, so can we see that? I don't see anybody's face, but somebody. Barry, can you see that screen?
No, all I see is your PowerPoint.
Just the PowerPoint?
I see your your PowerPoint if you were going to start your presentation. So is it behind your PowerPoint?
Let's just go to resume share. Is it, oh, new share? Sorry. Here we go. Okay, there we go. Sorry, guys. Yeah, is that working?
Perfect.
Right on. So this is our meat chart. Okay, so this is where insurance is a little bit morbid, but we'll be very clear as to what's covered. So again, if you die during the course of a game, $15,000. If you lose 2 limbs, any combination of the 2, $30,000. 1 limb and you lose an eye, $30,000, and it goes on. So those are the lump sums that are paid regardless of whether any other policies or anything's enforced. These are lump sums that you're paying for that would be given to you in the event of an injury. These are the payments that would be made after all other benefits are exhausted. So again, this policy is available on the website, but it kind of goes through what can be made available to you. So prosthetics, rehabilitation. If you fracture the skull, we'll give you a couple extra bucks. If you need dentures, pay out some money. So not major limits, but just know that they exist and they're available if something does happen.
If you fracture your skull, you become an official.
That's how we all started. Here, can you see the claims form now, Barry? Does that show up?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so guys, this, and again, I don't know if this is on the website. If not, probably be worth getting added, but this is what we'll need to fill out. So I wouldn't suggest we need to carry this in our bags, but it's worth knowing this is the kind of information they'll be after, should we sustain an injury. So that's it. That's all the PDFs. That's all the info I've got. As riveting as that was, I'm expecting plenty of questions, but are there any that pop out right away, folks? Anybody want to ask anything? Anything cool in the chat, Barry? Sorry, I don't see that popping up.
No worries. We do have 3 questions, but we only have 5 minutes left here. So
Perfect.
one question was, players like not to wear knee pads. A lot of officials let them continue to play without rectifying. Are we liable? In the rule book, it's part of mandatory equipment and we are responsible, ?
Yeah, so that's a tricky one. It boils down to, are we doing what a reasonable person should be doing? So there's a rule in force. We ask the players to wear the equipment. We ask the coaches at the beginning of the game to wear the equipment. If they violate that rule and an injury results, according from the rule book, all we could do would be to penalize them after that. So, I mean, would that really bring their knee back? Would that bring their teeth back? So are we liable? We could be, we don't know, but just by continuing to reinforce, pull your knees, pull your pads down, get your pads over the knees, making sure they're wearing the right equipment. The coverage is there. How a court decides to rule remains to be seen, but we just got to continue to do our part to make sure people are wearing their equipment correctly.
Other question, accidents are covered, but what about a deliberate act by fans that result in injury? What if fan cannot be identified?
I assume that means an injury to the official. Yeah, if a fan comes out and decides to huck a bottle at you and you're hurt, absolutely, coverage would respond for that. Likewise, if a fan comes out of nowhere and decides to, drop kick a player and that player decides to sue you because this fan wasn't controlled by the officiating crew, the coverage should respond to something like that. So yeah, we can't always predict what's going to happen or where it'll come from, but the coverage is pretty broad in that sense.
One last question. When is coverage available? Opening kickoff until the final whistle, only in the change room before/after the game?
That's a good question. So it's really the course of the game. So in my opinion, once you get to not my opinion, in the typical way the policy would respond, once you're at the game, once you're at the park, coverage will begin. So you've been assigned to the game, you show up at the field, you park your car, you're walking through, somebody sees you and decides that they don't want Adam Hinks again because that guy's a bum, and they decide to throw a bottle at me or something. Yeah, sure, I can claim that. Likewise, after the game, you're walking out and something happens. Absolutely, anything within the course of that game. You go to the bar for a bite to eat afterwards, and you say something silly and get beat up. You're probably not going to get coverage. But anything from the course of, when you exit your car at the field to when you get back in the car. Yeah, certainly the coverage would kind of respond during that period.
Perfect. Okay. So biggest thing takeaway, I think, from this is if you're filing a claim, you got 30 days and documentation.
100%. Yeah. Paperwork. Anything that might come back and bite you, write it down, doodle it, keep some type of log, because you don't want to be getting grilled by a lawyer with nothing written down 2 years down the road. So yeah, document it all for sure.
Perfect. Okay, I'll open it up really quickly. Any questions? We got time for one question from the crowd.
One comment to add, though, having gone through this, not with our local association, but from lawsuits across the country, the lawyer asked me 2 things. One was actually, he wanted me to copy a section of our rulebook in terms of safety, which obviously we have. The other part was, how do you know they're trained? So we have to describe, obviously, I don't know their local association, their education program, but what I spoke to was we have an education program that we deliver, and also we have an exam, a cross-country exam. So those were the questions that they asked us. So when the CFOA exam comes out, please participate in that, because that will come in handy at some point. In addition to being, when you got to know your stuff to be on the field. So,
Barry,
good point, Henry. Go ahead, Barry. or Murray?
Barry, just a quick comment here, just to let everybody know. We had a couple of years ago, we had a woman who was standing on the sidelines off the field of play, yakking with someone, and she got run over by a player who went out of bounds. Our officials were included in the lawsuit. The court found us 30% responsible. So just keep that in mind. That's the way the courts are ruling nowadays.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's bad that we have to learn from other people's, I don't want to use the word mistakes, but other people's situations. But yeah, absolutely. Great takeaway, Murray. Okay. We got to wrap this up, gentlemen. Thanks for spending your Saturday with us. Just to let you know, in Nova Scotia, it's a balmy 16 degrees and sun, and we're going to have football in the next little while. Our high school is doing a 10-a-side league, and we're looking at a couple other leagues springing up, some Pee-wee and Bantam. So there is hope out there for the rest of you guys. Don't forget, next week's session, same time, 2:00. I will be sending something out probably no later than Wednesday with the presenters with the Zoom link. We have upped our Zoom link now to 500 people. So please share it out there. This is for you guys. We can't meet in person, but we can definitely meet on Zoom. Otherwise, I have nothing else at this point. Henry, I'll throw it back to you for any final words before we wrap this up today.
No, just want to thank all our presenters and also thank all of you for joining today, this afternoon. Hopefully we'll see you and your colleagues joining us in the next 3 Saturdays. 2 p.m. in Halifax, that means 1 p.m. Eastern time zone. I'm sure we'll get some information out, and everything eventually will be posted on our website to share. Thank you once again, and look forward to connecting again next week.
Take care, guys and girls.